Hi, everyone, and welcome to S5U. We're going to be talking about building your LinkedIn profile today, and I hope it'll be fun and informative for you. A LinkedIn profile is really an online resume, and so it's a really powerful tool and something that you really need to put some thought and effort into as you go forward. So we'll kind of walk through some of the steps of what's involved in that today, and we'll talk a little bit about the following topics. So we're going to talk about why you need to complete your profile, why that's important, some of the components that make up a LinkedIn profile, and then really I want to focus on the 4 key components for every profile. It can get a little overwhelming sometimes to have so many boxes to fill out on these online profiles for things. And so we're going to talk about the 4 things that are really the most important. I really love this quote. To be in business today, our most important job is to be the head marketer for the brand called you. And I think this is a really great quote because it applies to us whether we're marketing ourselves, whether it's you out trying to find a new job, or a personal business that you market where it's just a one-man band kind of thing, or if it's your business that's a large company. You know, LinkedIn is really important in that, and part of what you're doing is you're marketing your brand and yourself. And that's one of the biggest important things that you can do as you're going forward, because the way you look online is really becoming almost the first impression people have of you today. You know, we don't meet face-to-face as much as we used to anymore. Your online footprint is really what people are going to be seeing. So important to think about. So first off, why do you need a LinkedIn profile? You know, you might, I mean, I say this all the time. I have a job. I'm not looking for another one. I'm not in sales or anything. Why do I need a LinkedIn profile, right? But there are some good reasons for it. It's really about these little dudes. And you've heard me talk about them before, these search engine spiders that go out and crawl around on the web trying to find data and information. And the thing that's important with them is that your LinkedIn profile is searchable by these little search engine spiders the same way your web page is. But the really interesting thing about LinkedIn is that it ranks extremely high in Google results. It's almost always going to be on the first page of a Google search result. So if I type in my name and you know, do a Google search for myself, my LinkedIn profile is almost always going to be in that top page, usually within the top 3. And so that becomes really important because when people Google your company or Google you as a person, they're going to be seeing that LinkedIn profile. And that's why it needs to be really professional and complete, is because it's going to be one of the first results that they have. And it also is great, you know, to boost that and help that become a higher search result if you can. You know, don't have it be down towards the bottom of the first page, have it be up towards the top. So it's a really great way to control your message. So here's your LinkedIn profile. You come onto your page. This is actually one of Jeremiah Stetler, our Chief Content Officer here, and my boss. I like to use this as an example. And you can kind of see what's going on with your account up here in the right-hand corner. It's where you get messages, any notifications, any connection requests that come in for people who want to connect with you. And then over here, down in kind of the left center section, is where you're going to see what people are posting. It's the news feed of LinkedIn, and you're going to see the stuff from your connections that will appear there and what they've posted. So let's get started talking about creating your LinkedIn profile. So you can access your profile under the Profile tab. Pretty easy there, right? So some of the sections there include, you can edit your profile, or you click, you know, edit your profile. You can do the headline, the photo, a status update, a vanity URL, a summary, applications, experience, education, recommendations, additional information, personal, goes on, right? And ideally, you would have something in every one of these boxes. If you don't have something in every one of those boxes, we're going to talk in a little while about which ones are the most important, right? But some of these are, you know, your headline is kind of your job title and things like that. A photo of yourself is really important. The vanity URL is something like you could include your Social5 personal mobile site URL that you have on there. You know, whatever it is, yourbusiness.social5.net, things like that. You want to include your experience and your education. Those are all good. People can recommend you on LinkedIn there. Really cool stuff. So it really is just this awesome online resume where you can really include a lot of experience, a lot of connections that you may have, and really, make yourself look really good there. So let's, again, we're thinking this as an online resume. We want to make it as thorough as possible and use as many keywords as you can that will help potential partners find you. So, some of these areas are, you want to make sure that you're including things about your current job position, what your business does, any of those key search phrases that people are going to be looking for, and that will help you pull up higher. So one thing I want to talk about here is this these key components. First one is the headline. So let's talk about some of these deadly sins of LinkedIn headlines, right? It's not the place to include something really cute and clever. So I don't want to put on my LinkedIn profile that I'm a social media superstar or something like that, right? I want to put my job title. So mine would say Director of Education, Social 5, right? Because that's what I do. You don't want it to be too ambiguous or confusing. If you do have a confusing job title, maybe add a little bit of explanation there, right? If you're the Director of Special Projects or something like that, maybe include some information on what those projects are or things like that. You also don't want it to be so boring that it puts people to sleep, right? You don't want it to be so generic that it doesn't tell exactly what you do. And you also don't want it to sound too desperate. If you're looking for work, you don't want to sound too eager. Come up with something, even if you're currently seeking employment. So I thought this was really great. This is an executive recruiter who writes for LinkedIn, and he had these great things that he said about his. The first one is his headline, and then he's got some other ones. So he's got, he's an executive recruiter, speaker, and author who helps you create a better career. He's been featured on Fox, CBS, and CNN. That's what he's got right there. So he's got not only, some of the keywords of the things he does. He's a recruiter, a speaker, an author. He's got this part about that he helps you find a better career, and he's got some of the places where he's been featured to give him some credibility. Here's another really good one that he helped someone write. He's a fundraising consultant who helps major nonprofits raise more money. Clients include Red Cross and YMCA. So that's great. If you have any big clients that you want to include, if, say you're an accounting firm or something like that, or, whatever it may be, if you have some big clients that you can mention there that people will be interested in, or that will give you some gravitas with your headline, that's really good too. And then this last one I thought was really good. It's a personal trainer who helps high school athletes get stronger and faster. So, and certified by the American Council on Exercise. So this one is great. It tells that they have a certification that shows that they know what they're doing and that they're an expert in their field. But then it also really talks about that their specific market, that they're looking for high school students that they can help get stronger and faster. They don't work with college students or pros or anything. They have a really great way of zoning in on their particular market. And so that's what you'd like to, if you can, include in your headline is, those keywords, exactly what you do, and just try and get as much information as you can in there in the short space available to you. The next thing I want to talk about is your headshot. And this is one that no one enjoys, right? We all hate, we've got a question here. Hang on just a second while I pull that up. How do you find and delete multiple LinkedIn sites that may have been created over time? So that's a really good question. What you're going to have to do with that is you'd have to go in and log into each of those individual accounts and then deactivate them. So you can do that through LinkedIn. You can go in and deactivate the different profiles. So that's something that's a really good point, Bob, is if you have more than one LinkedIn profile floating around out there. Now, some of us may have more than one because maybe you have one for your business and one for personal, or maybe you run two different businesses or something like that. It's okay to have more than one in that case. But you probably want to have one personal profile and then one for each business that you're running. And so if you do have multiples on there, I would go in and deactivate those accounts. Before you do that, you might want to salvage your email list, download that into a CSV file and all the connections you may have there. And then you can go through and reconnect with those people on the one that you want to keep. But I do think that is a really good thing to do, is to have just one profile out there that's you. Otherwise, it'll get confusing and you'll have, something outdated that has your old information, and people might stumble across that instead of your current one. All right, so back to headshots. Again, we had headshots day here at Social 5 a little while ago, and everybody was like miserable. We were all agonizing over what to wear. We didn't want to get our photos taken. Everybody was so sad about it. So while you're picking your headshot, please don't be this person, okay? Don't be this guy, right? Your headshot should have these components. It really needs to be professional. It needs to focus on your smiling face. It needs to be high resolution. You don't want it to be, grainy or anything like that. You want it to feature only one person. That's a really key component there. Is I can't tell you how many times on Facebook or on Twitter or things like that, I get friend requests from people, and it's a picture of two girls standing there with their arms around each other smiling. And I'm like, which one is the one I'm supposed to know, right? Same with a family photo and things like that. That's a really popular one, is to have a photo of your family there. And while that's great and shows, that you care about your family and everything, it's still confusing to have more than one person in that photo. You want something that's focused in on your face, where you're smiling, you look, pleasant and fun to be around. It needs to be appropriate for all seasons. So that's something to think about as you're getting your photo taken. Don't be wearing like a parka or something like that, where it's clearly taken in the winter. You want to have it be a photo that you can leave up there and not have to worry about changing all the time, right? So same thing if you're in a sundress or something like that. You don't, just have it be seasonally appropriate. And hopefully if you're in professional attire, that would be the case, right? You also want it to be recent. You don't want to have something from the 80s or whatever, when, I think we all wish we had could use a photo of ourselves. What is that saying about, like, I wish I was as fat as I was the first time I thought I was fat, right? We all wish we could have that photo of us 20 pounds lighter or whatever, but you want it to be current. And then you just really want it to look like you. You don't want to be so made up and, so you have so much makeup on, or your hair looks so different or anything like that, that you don't look like yourself. You want it to be that when people meet you, they recognize you from your headshot on LinkedIn, if they've seen you on LinkedIn before. It looked like I had a question. Let me pull that up here real quick. And the question is, can we help with the editing of a client's headline? We can, if they want us to. Yeah, that's definitely something we can do. Usually the client is, we'll help you build your site and everything, but this profile information is stuff that you usually fill out on your own. But if you need a little help tweaking your headline or anything, that's certainly something that our content team can help you out with. Or we'd probably have you take a crack at it, because obviously you're going to know the important things in your business that you want to include there, and we can help you finesse it a little bit if you'd like us to. So one last thing on these headshots. Remember, you're trying to create business connections here. It's not a dating site. It's not a spot for your glamour shots or anything like that. You want to look professional. So that's really important. All right. Another key component of your LinkedIn profile is going to be your experience section. Your profile is automatically going to display your most recent 3 positions, and up to 3 more if the viewer chooses to do view all. So you can do up to 6 past positions. So here's Jeremiah. He's got his current position at Social 5, and then he's got his last 3 listed here under previous. He's got the Salt Lake Tribune, the Saginaw News, and the Herald Journal, from where he was a reporter before. So on each of these, you're going to want to add a brief and clear description of the position and what you did there. And then one thing that we really recommend is that you don't shy away from experience that's outside your industry. Try and find a way to make it relevant. For example, with Jeremiah, he's been a news writer and reporter, so he has a lot of experience with writing, with communication, with, we had to use social media as reporters, so he can use that here. He covered a lot of political type things, so he understands, how local governments work and things like that. That's been a really big bonus for us, because with those, I covered local government too when we worked at the Tribune together. We can then talk about, you know, municipal water services and things like that. And we have some clients who've come on who like the county rec centers or things like that. And, you know, being able to show that you have experience in that is helpful. So there's always almost a way to tie those things into your industry and to make it relevant to what you're doing. So take every job that you've had and find a way to apply it. The other thing you can do is you can create a second headline under your experience tab that talks a little more in depth about not just your current job title, but has the experience that you've currently got. And then you can collect recommendations and endorsements from the folks that you've worked with in the past. This is a really great way to show off that you know, have these skills and everything. A great way to do that is to go out and endorse people that you have worked with in the past. I know I get endorsements all the time from folks I worked with at other jobs where they'll endorse me for something like copy editing or you know, AP style or things like that that we used in the news reporting industry. And kind of what they're doing is they're asking me to endorse them back because we worked at the newspaper together. And I'm happy to do that, you know, as long as it's someone who I feel comfortable endorsing, right? Please don't feel like you need to ever endorse anyone that you don't think would be a good employee. And that's the same, I should say that for LinkedIn with anything. Don't ever feel like you need to connect with someone that, you know, you felt was a bad employee or something and that you don't want to be associated with professionally. Please feel free to ignore those connection requests if they come through. All right, so, and this is kind of, might seem like kind of a silly one, but the last key component is your contact information. You really want to make sure that you include your website. Preferably the website for your company, right? If you have a vanity URL, you can include that too. But if you do have that vanity URL, make sure you include the standard website as well. You want to include your phone, your email, and your address, your business phone, email, and address. I see a lot of people on LinkedIn who still have, you know, their old Yahoo email address or something that's just some silly name that they, you know, like PackersFan93 at yahoo.com or something like that. You want your professional email contact information on there. And you want to add links to your other social channels. So you want to have your LinkedIn will allow you to add up to 3 other links. So you can do your website, your Facebook, your Twitter, or any other social channel or anything like that that you may want to include. And you can also add links to your blog or to publications that you've done, which is really great. If you've published an article or something like that, include it. That's awesome. It gives a ton of gravitas to your profile and makes you seem really experienced. All right, that's all we've got for today. I'll open it up to any questions you guys may have. One thing I do want to say is that a lot of these components carry over whether you're working on a personal page or a business page. You know, you still want to make sure that you've got the experience filled out, that you've got a profile picture or a graphic that is professional and well done and everything. You don't want to have a grainy photo or anything like that. So all really important things to think of. Again, LinkedIn tends to be a more powerful tool for your personal page versus your business page, but it's still really good for both. So if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in either the chat or into the Q&A. Anybody have anything they needed to ask about? All right. Well, we've got a great session coming up here next. We're going to be talking about LinkedIn advertising. Oh, looks like we've got a question. So if you guys want to tune in at 11, that's always great. Oh, where is the contact info at? Oh, I don't know if I have a screenshot of that right here. But it's going to be under your profile. If you go to under that to profile and edit profile, it'll have your contact info there. And that's really important because that's where people are going to connect with you, right? If they want to get in touch with you for some reason. And I just saw we had another question come in. So they asked, when we create a LinkedIn page for a new customer, do we do all of this for them? And not really. We create the basic profile and we will do their graphics and things like that. So we'll help them with, you know, a photo and stuff like that. But all that stuff, you know, we don't know their education and experience and all that information that they have. So it's really important for you guys to fill that out and go back and do that. This is a big component in social media, is that a lot of companies start a social media account and they just are trying to get it created in 5 minutes or whatever and get it all done. And they don't go back and fill in those profiles later. We see it all the time on Facebook and things like that too. And the thing that is important here is that really helps in that social search optimization, so that when those spiders need more content to latch onto as they're looking for your results. So that's why this is important. The other thing I wanted to say about this is that one thing that I've really noticed with LinkedIn and why it's so important is, our sales folks do this all the time, where they'll go check out, who they're going to go meet with and see which connections they have in common. And that way it gives you kind of a reference point to talk to the other person. You can, someone who is going to meet with Jeremiah, they could go look at his profile and they see, oh, Katie Drake, how do you guys know each other? And it kind of acts as like a little bit of a point of reference there and gives you a connection in common. So that's kind of a cool tool too. So again, really important that you have a LinkedIn profile going. All right, we've got a couple more questions here. How often should someone update his or her profile, and what do you add under status? Good question. So I would say you update your profile whenever anything changes, right? If you've gotten a new degree or switched job positions or things like that, it's not something that you have to be updating constantly as long as nothing has changed, right? I mean, if your photo has been the same on there for 5 years, it's probably time to get a new one, right? Or it doesn't look like you anymore or something like that. But it can remain fairly static once you've got it filled out, as long as nothing has changed. Now, under the status, that's where you can share, it's like a Facebook status update, where you can share an article or information or things like that. If you've got LinkedIn service through Social5, that's where the content we're posting goes. But you can post your own stuff there too. The weird part is you don't really see your own status so much. It shows up on other people's profiles, so it's kind of weird that way. Same with the advertising and things like that you sometimes do on social media channels. And I think we've got one more question here. Does the profile allow only one email for contact or profile info? Yes. So you want to, if you have a business page, you want to include kind of a generic email address and phone number, the front office or things like that, whoever it is that you want them to contact. I think for our Social5 one, we either have our support at Social5 or our content at Social5 email address on there. That's kind of a generic catch-all email address that people can reach. All right. We've got another question over here. If a business has multiple aspects, how do we handle that? Can you ask me, can you clarify that a little bit, Vicki? I'm not sure what you mean. Do you mean if you have two, you have one business but you do multiple things? Or do you mean if you have two, you're a realtor but then you also have a cake decorating business on the side? If that's the case, I'll try and answer from what I've got. If that's the case, if you've got a real estate business and a cake decorating business or something like that, whatever your two things may be, essential oils and insurance or something like that, I would recommend having a separate LinkedIn page for each of those for your business. But then you'd have one personal profile, and you'd want to include all of the things you do on your personal profile. And remember, on LinkedIn, people are going to be more likely to connect with a person than they are with a business. Business page is still very important, but that's really going to help you make those connections is through your personal connections. So if you have, two completely separate things, I would have two different pages. If it's one business, that's all under the same umbrella, then you'll just want to make sure you answer both of, include information for both of those under all those tabs. You want to include that in your headline to tell people that you do both of these things, or under your experience, you probably want to have different sections that highlight the different experiences that you have. So, again, with anything, the more information you can give here, the better, okay? So you're going to want to include as much information as you can to fill this out. So, all right. Well, we'll go ahead and call it for today. Oh, we got one more question. Sorry. Oh, no, we got it. Okay, awesome. All right, well, we'll go ahead and end this meeting, and if you want to hop back in at 11 o'clock, we will be talking about LinkedIn advertising, which is kind of a cool thing. So I think that'll be really valuable for some of you. So feel free to hop back in at 11, and we'll see you guys soon. Thanks so much.